we go. Hello and welcome back to Affinity Radio. This is the Gary Walsh Show. Now, I have a very special guest with me today. I've talked about her, of what's coming up, and she's here. It's Juliette Taylor. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me.
How are you, doll?
Yeah, I'm great. Thank you. Really thrilled to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I was thinking before, we just obviously had a little chat before we came on air, and it's been nearly 2 years since we've seen each other.
Hmm.
Which is a long time. And for anyone who doesn't know, Juliet and I met when I was the creative development manager at the Purple Peacock in Newcastle. And Juliet came to one of our auditions and
With
she
no voice.
shone with what?
Do you remember I had no voice?
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Hello. Yeah, I do remember actually. But you shone, obviously we did like a dance round and stuff, and you absolutely shone. And obviously like I ended up employing you, and you working at the Purple Peacock for quite a little time. But for everyone who's listening, you are here to talk a couple of things today. And you are a performer, as we've said. You are a pageant queen, and you are a podcast host. You have your podcast, Live, Laugh, Love, Lesbian, which we were just saying, I'm not the aimed target audience, but I listen to it because I think it's brilliant.
do you know what? It's just a bit of fun for everyone. It's a safe space for everyone just to, come in and listen and just, not feel judged for, any aspect of their life. It's a very safe space just for everybody to.
It's beautiful. And we'll start right there at the podcast. So what made you get into it? What made you go, do you know what? This is what I want to do. I want to put myself out there. I want to be open to the world because you are very open, and it's very brave to do that as someone who, you came out later,
Yeah.
let's say later in life. But do you know what I mean? Usually people, you know, generally from a young age, but it's something that you've discovered about yourself as you got older and matured.
Yeah, definitely. So I think obviously being a performer, you're very used to, having to talk and present yourself. And I've always loved talking. Like from being young, I remember I used to go to a running club and my coach would say, if you could like run as much as you could talk, you'd be a gold medalist for Great Britain. Like I love to talk. And I've always felt like a calling to, start a podcast and to sort of be in that like role model position in my life. But I was sort of like, how do I want to take that? Because I feel like you have to have a niche. You have to have something that's like that's your thing that you're talking about. Otherwise, there's a no target audience at all. And then I was like, hang on a second. Like I feel like growing up, I didn't have like any queer role models, whether that's like in the media or even in like actual physical life. Like there was nobody that I knew who was gay. So then I was like, you know what? That is my calling. Like I'm going to be that person for these for anyone just to be able to look up to and just come and have that safe space and to be able to ask the questions like you know how do you have sex with the girl, sorry if that's too out there for
No,
a radio show, but it's questions like that that Google doesn't really give you a good answer. So I want to just be able to be there for people who don't have somebody to go to. Maybe they've been kicked out by family members or not accepted by friends or family, and just so they have this space. And I think once I figured out that was the niche I wanted to go down, everything just happened really naturally, like creating the podcast and obviously very used to being on camera and talking. So it just all kind of stemmed from there, really.
it's absolutely amazing. It's given that human education. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, we can learn everything from books. You can read lots of things, but actually hearing about people's experiences and what they go through and how they deal with different situations in their life and discovering themselves in the journey of intimacy. You know what I mean? It's absolutely amazing. But you've had some guests on your podcast as well, right?
Yeah, we have. So one of my very, like literally when I first started the podcast, I was doing, it was when I Kissed a Girl had just come out, which is basically Lesbian Love Island for anyone who doesn't know. And
Danny Minogue was the host, right?
yes, yes, she was, yeah. And I'd been making some TikTok videos about it, and quite a lot of the cast members were like interacting. So I was like, I'm just going to message them. So I just reached out and said to one of them, it was Priya, and I said, would you like to come on my new podcast that I'm creating? And she was like, absolutely. So we've interviewed Priya from I Kissed a Girl. We had an LGBTQ plus relationship coach. Like I said, I want the podcast to be a really safe space. So I interviewed one of my friends who's a trans man, just because I think that, you know, like I said before, Google only tells you so much. I think actually hearing real life stories from people who've transitioned, who've come out later in life, who've gone on a lesbian reality dating TV show, having those episodes available just to listen to wherever is so important for, maybe younger children or adults or whoever might be going through this in their life and thinking they're alone, just to show them that you're not alone and people have gone through it and come out the other end. Like I had one of my friends on who got kicked out of home for being gay, and just, having her on the show and telling her story and showing that happened, but I'm okay now. I'm rebuilding that relationship with my family. I think it's just so important for those who maybe are a bit lost right now and thinking, I'm never going to have a relationship with my family again, or whatever it could be. I can't tell my family I'm trans because I don't feel comfortable. Just seeing and hearing that other people have done that, I think it's really inspirational for people to then go, okay, I'm not alone.
It's fantastic, and it's amazing for you to give other people that platform as well. I don't really talk about politics, and we're definitely not a politics show, but especially what you're doing is inspiring, especially in the world that we're living in, especially with what's going on in
Needed,
America right
isn't
now.
it?
Yeah, and I think we're very lucky in the UK, especially in the Northeast. We're a very welcoming community. We open our arms to everybody. And as when all the raids and stuff were going on last year and the year before, and everyone was like, Newcastle is black and white and brown ale.
Mm.
It's fantastic. And I think as a region, we are the most welcoming and we are the most
I say
friendliest.
so.
So, and you given that you're sometimes I think when you listen to your podcast, you're given obviously advice. I think you're giving someone like a hug as you're giving them
Full
that
hug.
it's so lovely. It's very warm and very homely. So thank you for giving people that opportunity, and to talk about it, and for people who don't understand it, people don't ever go through these things in their life or experience it. So you are educating as well as entertaining, which I think is amazing. So
Thank you.
Live, Laugh, Love Lesbian is a brilliant podcast.
Oh, thank you. I'll tell you quickly. I'm currently going through a bit of a crisis, and I might be changing the name of the podcast. So when this goes live, if anyone is searching and you can't find it, it's because it's now the Lesbian Lounge. But I'm not 100% if I am going to change it.
That's happened. I did
Um,
that with my podcast. I kept changing the name and then I kept going back, and I
it's
was like,
hard
do you know what?
because you just want it to be perfect. And I
Of
think,
course.
like with Live, Laugh, Love, Lesbian, it's very fun, but there's other things out there with similar names. We had another podcast come and like basically take the name, and I was like, oh, brilliant, thanks a lot. But I just think the Lesbian Lounge, I just think it's a little bit classier, and I feel like that's more scalable, and I can go further with that. But yeah, if anyone
Yeah,
goes to
exactly.
search for it and you can't find it, it's because it's now the Lesbian Lounge, but it
Well,
probably will
there
stay
we go.
Live, Love, Lesbian for at least another
Well,
few weeks until I get everything sorted.
if the name does change, we'll get it out on the social so that people are still
Definitely.
aware. All right. Well, let's move on from the podcast for now. You are a pageant queen.
I am indeed.
It's a very American thing, and
It
doesn't
is.
it doesn't happen so often, I guess, in this country. My ex actually did Miss England a few years ago and got down to the finals. So
Oh,
when we met and you said you're a pageant queen, I was like, oh, that's fantastic. It's because it's very niche and very different. But the type of pageants you do is slightly different, right? You are Miss Environmental England.
I am. So technically, there's actually two of us now. So I have crowned a new Miss Environment England who's incredible. She's called Karen A, and we're literally we made best friends like instantly on the day. So I will be going to the Philippines this June to represent England, which is so exciting. And then Karen A will go the year after me. There was a few delays with the pageant, hence why we had to like get a new queen crowned. Otherwise, it's just
Right.
like it'll just go on forever. But yeah, so it's very different to, your what you see on TV. What you when you hear pageants, you think toddlers and tiaras, you think little teeny tiny kids in these massive dresses and fake teeth and fake tan. And
Yeah.
it's so much more than that, and or so far from that. There is pageants out there like that. They're glitz pageants, but the majority, even in America, are natural pageants, which is, kids under 13, a bit of mascara and a bit of lip gloss. Like you're not being judged on your like physical facial beauty. It's all about the work you do. And obviously with Miss Environment England and Eco Pageants UK, it's all about what we can do to help the planet be more sustainable, not just in pageantry, but in everyday life as well.
It's amazing. So it's got an amazing message to go with it. And you do a lot of charity work through being Miss Environment England. So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about the charity work that you do, because a lot of it's in the local community, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've grown up in a very charitable family. My dad used to work at St Oswald's Hospice in Gosford, so I grew up like helping him with fundraisers for them. He did lots of crazy things. If you've ever heard of the original Fridge Man, he is the man who ran the Great North Run with a fridge on his back and then a
Oh,
sink,
wow.
and the he ran with the Olympic torch. So he was, well, it still is a very charitable man. So I sort of like that rubbed off on me, and I would, get excited as to how I could help fundraising. And then when I started doing pageants, I realized how much there was to do with charity work and fundraising, which was brilliant for me because it was something that I was already really, really passionate about. So as throughout the years, I fundraised for different charities, probably raising, I'd say, over £15,000 for various charities across the Northeast, internationally, and like nationwide charities as well. But I just think it's something that's so like, it's looked over. People don't, when you think of a pageant girl, that's the last thing you sort of would expect them to be doing, is to be going out and doing all of this charity work. But I've been able to support local charities like Daisy Chain, which supports individuals with like different neurodivergencies, and they're also a sustainable fashion charity, so it like they go hand in hand so well. Also Fauna and Flora, which supports different biodiversities all over the world. So I've been able to fundraise for them and many other charities throughout the years. And even when I've not been competing in pageants, it's something that I've still done because I'm like, if I can do something small to help these incredible charities, like, you don't need a pageant title or a sash or a crown to do that. It's just because you do it because you're a good person and you want to make that difference. But when you are lucky enough to, have a pageant title or a crown, it sort of just elevates that platform and gives you, maybe a bit more of a way to like get in to help the charities. You can say, hey, I'm actually Miss Environment England, if you would like me to, come to any events and things like that. It draws people in. So it definitely helps not just yourself for the pageant, but it also helps the charities out as well, because, it helps bring a little bit of exposure for them.
That's absolutely brilliant. And like you say, it gives you that platform to be able to go out into the community, do good, carry on the legacy that your dad started, and do it in your own way and in an environmentally friendly way, which is brilliant. So, well, best of luck for Thailand.
Thank you.
Like,
Philippines.
we'll be following your story, and you can come back on the show and tell us all about it as
Oh,
well, which is
yeah,
brilliant.
for sure.
Um, what I do want to touch on very, very quickly before we finish, you recently did an advert for Tinder.
I did.
How did that all come about? Obviously through your podcast, but how did Tinder get in touch with you, and how did that happen?
So basically, I actually had been lying to my family for the whole of mine and my girlfriend's relationship, because I don't know why, I just thought it's so embarrassing to say we've met on Tinder. Like, I don't know what like the taboo was there in my brain. So I said we met through a mutual friend. And then when I started the podcast, the first episode I did was a little Q&A, and someone asked, how did you and your girlfriend meet? And I thought, it's now or never. Like, if I don't say Tinder for the rest of our life, it's going to have to be this mutual friend who, like, bless him, probably has no idea he wasn't even the mutual friend that
Just
we.
make one up. It was this person. Just make one up.
Exactly. So I was like, it's now or never. I'm just gonna have to say it. So I said it on the podcast, and I always record little like visual clips of the podcast for TikTok and Instagram, just to reach people to come and listen
Content.
to the podcast. Exactly. And then Tinder saw it and they reached out and were like, we love this. We'd love to do some work with you. And it was, the hardest part was convincing my girlfriend. She does not like being on camera at all. So I don't know how I managed to convince her. I think it was the paycheck. She was like, okay, I'll do it.
Cha-ching. Thank you, Tinder.
Literally, she was like, brilliant. So yeah, they just reached out and they interviewed, I think it was 5 other incredible couples who've all matched on Tinder. And I think it's really important to, again, like, they were breaking down those stereotypes and taboos of matching on Tinder. So even for me, I was like, you know what, it's all like claiming that power back, being like, I, didn't tell people about this for like 3-4 years, but now I'm, taking it back and being like, bam, here's an advert with Tinder.
Yeah.
But it was so much fun. We got to go down to London and film for the day. And to have that come from sort of starting the podcast was just incredible, because it's like, if I didn't take that leap and start it, then I wouldn't have worked with Tinder and hopefully many more brands to come in the future. So it's definitely like, when you sort of like everything's happening for a reason, and the universe is sort of just giving you signs like you've done the right thing, you're going in the right direction. It was definitely one of those moments.
Absolutely. And getting over that stereotype thing of Tinder is just for straight people.
Hmm.
Because you don't really associate Tinder with gay couples
Hmm.
and gay people meeting So that's a thing that I was like, oh, brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
great. And if you've got any advice for a single man who is coming back to the Northeast very soon and probably going to be on Tinder, um, well, because I just say it's broke because I never get any matches. I'm like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's broke. It's not me.
Honestly, I think the best you just have an open mind, isn't it? And just, that's what like it was the same with myself until like we both, it's always the cliche. We weren't looking for anything like
Of
in
course.
particular, but I think, just
I
keeping
was
an open
bored
mind
swiping.
out the but yeah, honestly, I think just keeping an open mind and maybe extend your what's the word, like your location range just
Or
a
the
little bit.
distance. Well, that's why I came to cruise ships to find love, and it just hasn't happened. So I'm coming back to the Northeast, and I'm like, right, what do I do now? What do I do now? So
Any
I'll
ladies
give you a shout and get so you can write me Tinder profile for us, and we'll see
there
we'll
we
see.
go.
Oh well, Juliet, thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm so
Okay.
excited to see where your podcast goes. Best of luck for Thailand as well. But before you go, I have a quick little game for you. We've got a little this or that game. Are you up for it?
Oh, I'm so up for it. I'm so excited.
I'm going to give you two options, and you've got to quick fire choose which one it is. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Catwalk or dog walk?
Dog walk.
Fruit or veg?
Fruit.
Ball gown or comfies?
Comfies.
Yeah. Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing on Ice?
Strictly.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
The Premier League or the Women's Super League?
Oh, WSL all day.
Here we go. Messi or Ronaldo?
Oh, Katie McCabe, neither.
Oh, lovely. Now, my next one, I've seen you mention these two before in some of your videos. Mary Earps or Lucy Bronze?
Lucy Bronze all
Oh,
day.
I thought that might be the one. Singing or dancing?
Dancing.
Live, laugh, love, or lesbian?
Lesbian.
Hey! Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have a song request? We're going to play the next song, whatever you want,
I
Juliet.
do. Can we have a bit of Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan?
Oh, absolutely. Once again,
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on the show and
Thank
best
you
of
for
luck
having
with
me.
everything. And we'll hopefully get you back on the show and you can tell us all about Thailand later in the year.
Yeah, for sure.